Hello. Morning. Hi, Aaron. I don't think we've met before. I see you.
Hi.
Hi. So, you just come in from Lucas Call?
Yes.
Okay.
I never get to join his ones normally. For some reason I always get the time wrong. Actually, I missed them, but I managed to make this one, so that was good.
Oh, well done. Yeah, he's always got in-depth information.
Yeah.
It's quite heavy, quite meaty.
Yes.
It's good stuff. So we are in the midst of Cardano fever season. There's the Cardano summits on at the moment, and our regulars are probably out at that. So I don't know if they'll be joining us today or not. But
Okay.
I've been being sent messages, and I'm off to speak in London tomorrow. So I've got a few things to cover, but it might, by the looks of things, be a bit sparse on the ground today. I've normally got at least 5 regulars, but people are up in arms. I'm wondering now whether I actually said last week I don't think I'm going to be doing it, but I'm here, so you have me to yourself.
Okay.
What I tend to do is go through a little bit of news, and feel free to interrupt me at any point. But then also, if I like it to be a bit more of a workshop than normal calls. So if you've got any questions about anything, whether that's Cardano itself, setting up wallets, anything DeFi, anything sort of crypto related, I can probably give an opinion on or help you with as well. So feel free to ask away. Anything pops to the top of your mind at the moment?
No, I mean, I think I've got some Cardano I've had for a while. Obviously, I had some bought at the higher end a while ago, and then down some of the lower end. So, so yeah, I was just very curious because it's just you always hear different things, mixed things on it, and so when I just saw that you had a Cardano specific piece, I thought, I'll join that and just see what's
Nice.
there.
Well, I think
Especially as everything's just suddenly moved in the last few days as well, a little bit. So
yeah, it's been a very reassuring move, I'd say. If you bought at that top, then it's been an uncomfortable last 12 months, hasn't it? Really.
Yes.
But I think the plan is starting to come back to the right direction now. So we're going to be seeing some interesting activity over the next little while. That's for sure. And yeah, I think we're up 15, maybe 20% in the last couple of weeks. So
yeah,
that's really good to see. Yeah. So and
there's a conference at the moment, is there? So there's a summit, you said, or
yeah. So this weekend is the Cardano Summit globally. The head event's in Dubai this year. Last year was Lausanne, Switzerland. The year before that was London. So I went to the London one, and I was hoping to go out to Dubai this year, but the bear market has borne out longer than I was hoping. So I haven't been able to put the travel budget together that I was looking for. And I got invited to speak at the London event again. So I thought I would save my pennies and stay home and speak at London. Those guys have been good to me anyway, so it's nice to keep supporting the local events. Yeah, so I don't know what your average buy-in price is for Cardano now, but it's
yeah, it's a good question. I was probably, I don't know, I probably bought some I bought some at around 30 as well, and 70 and 50 and probably up to 150, I would imagine. It was at that end. So yeah, that's the thing. I'm not super organized on being able to see when or how.
Yeah,
and then part of me is like, oh, don't think about it. I mean, it's I think I've only got, I think it's like $2,000 worth of Cardano.
Okay.
So,
well,
as it stands at the moment. I remember it was once worth around 8. So
yeah. I've got several people that bought in at various points. So I think we've got 77 delegators to the pool at the moment, and because I run a stake pool on Cardano, which is sort of the effectively equivalent of a miner in Bitcoin, but for Cardano it's proof of stake, so it's far less resource intensive. But you're with a stake pool, you're effectively showing your trust for a particular operator on the network. So whoever you're staking your Cardano with, you can get 3.5% additional APR interest on your ADA holdings. So staking it is worthwhile because it comes for free and you get free APR off the back of it. But as part of that decision, choosing who you stake your stake with, you're contributing to the proof of stake consensus mechanism within Cardano. So operators who've got a lot of people staking with their pool, accruing ADA, that gives them more and more regular chance to be minting blocks. So actually producing new Cardano or ADA as it's being drip fed into the ecosystem. And the design of the system is that regardless of how many blocks you're minting over a year, you should be effectively returning the same APR on people who stake with your pool. So there's no major disincentive for staking with a small pool operator versus a large pool operator. In reality, there is a slight loss of earnings with a tiny pool operator. But once you're hitting sort of the 2 million ADA mark, then you tend to be doing okay in terms of getting up that 3.5% return. And so that decision on who you're staking with is really helping power people on the network, operating the network, who have been able to show that they can do the job for a decent period of time. They're earning rewards for their delegators. And so that's then showing it's almost like a vote of confidence in this operator, which gives them, better standing in the network, and overall the network health then goes up. And so it improves on the uptime of the network and all that stuff. And I was just seeing some stats this morning. I'm listening to one of the calls from one of the speaks talks from Dubai, was saying that there are only 2 organizations that have stayed online with their tech infrastructure without going offline at all for more than 2,000 days. Cardano is second and Bitcoin is first. So in terms of stability, we're doing very well. So I don't like to bash on other chains, but this is there's a notable difference between Cardano and some of the other blockchains. And I will say a little bit. So Solana, if you've been looking at the charts at all, that's the one that's done extremely well.
Yeah, and up like 50%, isn't it?
Yeah, which is phenomenal. Very pleased for them. But on the flip side of that is Solana is a very VC venture capitalist backed entity. So they've got a whole load of VC money in there, and when there is an opportunity for price to rise, and they'll pump it, and then they'll be taking profits at the point that it makes sense for venture capitalists to take profit. So their sort of price movement is very manipulated in that sense compared to Cardano, which has been very dull to watch in comparison. But also had several outages of their actual, so the blockchain's actually been stopped and had to be restarted, and the number of operators on there was low enough for them to be able to collude to say, yes, we're all going to switch off, effectively reboot, and everything will be okay again. And so I think the first time it happened, there was like 35 operators, and so they're all on a Discord server or a WhatsApp group, get together and arrange to do that. With Cardano, we've got at the peak we had over 3,500 node operators, and so the potential for trying to coordinate all of them at the same time to do anything is nil. So there's very little chance of us, because of the scale we're at, to be able to collude to try and fix a problem like that. So it's been very much a stable network as a result of the technology that's built into it, not as a part of the collusion of the operators. So me as an independent operator, I am, a law unto my own. I can run the tech according to the specs that are out there, but I can't tamper with it. I can't change the results of the delegation or the block earning potential, and I certainly couldn't. I can't be told to reboot my servers at a particular point in time to try and help the network and things like that. There's just too many people around the world. All different languages are represented, all different continents, different jurisdictions. So in terms of that, Cardano is the largest proof of stake network in terms of operators, and has the most uptime of all the stake operators, of all the proof of stake networks, and we've also got the best liquid staking model. So with Cardano, you can stake with a pool, earn your interest, and you can move it to another operator within a sort of 5-day period, and there's nothing the operator can do to stop you moving your funds. You're able to spend your funds at any point in time, and by moving to another pool, then you're still earning your 3.5%. So there's no breaks in it or anything like that. So there's no locking period, and there's no slashing. So you can't. But if I fail as an operator, the worst that'll happen is that I don't mint the block that I should have minted, and then you'll walk away because I'm not getting the 3.5% return on your ADA. And so it's a very all the power is with the holders of the ADA, and operators have to do a good job. And so it's all incentivized game theory for keeping the network running. So it's a really cleverly well thought out system. And even looking at Ethereum, for example, that's had to move from a proof of work consensus mechanism to a proof of stake, and as a result of that, they were sort of the most decentralized proof of work network, other than Bitcoin, perhaps. And they've now gone to proof of stake, and they've suddenly become really highly centralized because of the technical challenges of trying to implement proof of stake, not from the ground up, but as a sort of stopgap to try to improve the network. So technology-wise, you're on a good footing with Cardano, and infrastructure-wise, tech-wise, it's also proving out to be really good. And so, even just last week, Ethereum are talking about adopting the liquid staking model of Cardano. So, the white and again, Cardano was based out of academic research rather than, Silicon Valley. Let's build a blockchain because that's making loads of money for everyone. So there's like over 100 academic research papers that the Cardano found IOG, the guys behind IO Global, built Cardano, Cardano Foundation, who manage the treasury, and Emergo, the sort of enterprise corporate arm that is based out of Asia. A lot of Japanese are heavy investors in Cardano. Those three entities sort of work together to support the creation of the academic papers that then built their tech on. So Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, is very much into rigorous academic peer-reviewed tech development rather than slap it together and let's see what happens. So technologically, we're on good footing. just so I'm not keeping an eye on people joining. There we go. So we've got good technical standing. We've got a non-inflated price action, because the token distribution was very, very fair. There's no large accumulation of ADA in any one entity's hands. I think it's 13% was retained by the founding entities, whereas, you know, like Solana, I think it's 50% or something like that. So the distribution of tokens is really fair. We've got a fixed price cap like Bitcoin has, so there'll only be a set number of ADA released. We don't burn any. There's no slashing. It's a very secure and stable way of getting interest on your holdings. So yeah, staking with the pool is very, very good, very sensible to do, and you get to choose, and you don't lose any rights by doing it. You also got a whole load of incentives for doing it. So once you're registered as staking with a pool, you can then vote in the governance structures that are developing within Cardano. So there's Project Catalyst, which is...
Can you hold on just 1 second? I've just got to grab my plug. You've just gone red on the thing. Just give me one sec.
Sure, not a problem.
If it's on the recording.
Yeah, it's on the recording, so I'll carry on spewing. And so the Cardano Foundation has a treasury that Cardano is built from, and in that there's, you know, at the peak there was about $1 billion worth of ADA. I'm not sure what the dollar valuation of it is now, but certainly we've got a huge stack of cash ready to fund the development of projects. And Project Catalyst is an innovation fund. So you've got anybody and everybody who holds ADA. They're able to vote in Project Catalyst for proposals put forward by community members, and they're also able to put proposals in themselves. And anybody who holds ADA, you need 500 ADA to register to vote as a minimum. Then you can choose on these projects that you want to see funded. And so as a group, the community decides on what tech gets built out first from the Treasury's fund, which is a really, you know, fair and distributed way of making decisions. And at the moment, there's initiative going on to move the control of decisions around when and what changes we make to the blockchain. There's a move from IOG, Emergo, and Cardano Foundation, who hold the Genesis keys, they're called, for the blockchain. The plan is to move the control of those out into a wider organization, a wider governance organization, or it's not quite an organization, it's more of an infrastructure, a governance infrastructure. So part of that move is creating a sort of constitution for Cardano, inviting organizations into a foundation that will then have a sort of vote right within that, and then bringing in stake pool operators who manage the infrastructure, and will have a say in that decision-making process. And then everybody who holds ADA will have a say in what decisions are made. And so together, those sort of three parties will form this governance structure that will drive the direction that the tech goes for Cardano. And that is based on a white paper that's been written called CIP 1694, Cardano Improvement Proposal 1694, which is a year of Voltaire's birth. Voltaire is a sort of the poster child for Cardano's governance movements, and so that will then further decentralize the decision making within Cardano from the founding entities into really being in the hands of the community. So it'll be very much like Bitcoin in terms of its governance structures, which again is just about creating an entity that has a a predetermined monetary policy that anybody who wishes to participate in that economic system is free to do so. So it's you don't have to get permission to join it and participate. Anybody can come in. The policies that drive how the development goes is funded, how the treasury is spent on growing and pushing it to the edges is a group vote, and the sort of the control of it is not going to be hand centralized, it's going to be fully decentralized. And so in terms of its architecture, decentralized node operators like state pool operators, 3,500 of us running the tech, and the governance structure then being spread out to these 3 parties within the member-based organization, and then the fact that every ADA holder can vote on it makes us a really global decentralized network, and that is a really important thing if we're going to move away from the problems that we're seeing in our current economic system. So with governments controlling their national currencies, printing as much as they want, that's how we see them sort of trying to mitigate against disasters or improve their own financial standing as a nation in competition with other nations. We can move from that sort of money printing mindset into, we've got a fixed monetary policy. Everybody who chooses to participate in that economic circulation will have the same sort of standing, and can't massively, say we need to print more ADA and it's going to be in my wallets now. This is all just predetermined, and it should bring us a whole new level of stability in terms of economic movement. So that's the goal, that's the dream of decentralized finance. Bitcoin is the lead proponent in that. Never tell anybody not to buy Bitcoin, it's a great investment. And in terms of 3rd generation blockchains, so you had Bitcoin first, Ethereum, and then Cardano. And Cardano is, to me, looking like the best tech available in blockchain at the moment, and with the best intentions in terms of decentralized decision making. So that's why I'm an operator here, and encourage other people to come and participate as well. And as part of that stability built into the academic foundations, the sensible initial token distribution, the steady, incorruptible financial policies that are built into the protocol, it gives us, a steady price action in comparison to several of the tokens out there, cryptocurrencies out there. And so we may not get all the drama, but that hopefully will result in, a steady increase as this bull run comes up, and then above and beyond. So I've got no doubt that our renewal holdings will be rewarded back to you. And the sort of figures I hear bandied about are always speculative, don't really mean much. The price action will do what price action does. Markets spend how markets spend. But I'm confident we'll get back to our all-time highs within the next couple of years and go above and beyond. So from, just in that regard, if you get back to an all-time high, we're still in a sort of 20x, not 20x. So we're at 25p now. Peak was about £3. So we've got 10x to see from where we are now, and more at least, which is nice and reassuring. So wherever you're buying in, you're going to be okay. However, if you're buying in now, we're still very close to our bottom, and so you've got a very good chance of doing really well from here. So I've got a couple of notes of projects in and around Cardano, because that's where you have potential to even do much greater gains. And as investors, we are interested in personal money, return on our investment, as well as sort of the ethos, the missions that may be built into our own sense of purpose, as well as the chains and the tech that we choose to operate in. So I was saying that we've got the Cardano Summit going on at the moment. Oh, it looks like my notes haven't been brought over from Linux, which I run most of the time with the data driver. Well, I can find them again quite easily. So let me start sharing. So the Cardano Summit is on at the moment. So if you are interested in seeing the health of the network, getting an idea of where the community is as from a tech perspective, independent of price, because really, if you're evaluating any sort of investment, you should be looking at the fundamentals about what's important in terms of direction of movement, quality of projects in this space. And certainly if you've invested in Cardano at all before September a couple of years ago, which was when smart contracts came onto Cardano, and that's at the peak of the price that we've seen Cardano at. At that point in time, we had no real tech. Since then, we've brought in smart contracts, and now we can actually make programmable transactions. We've got stable coins are now appeared, which there are 4, I think, that I know of that are doing a decent job, and there's a new one coming up that I want to talk about today. We've got we're just in such a better technological position than we were in terms of our capabilities than when we were at the peak of the price, that from here we've got a really good chance of being one of the top chains, if not the top chain. And I don't like to be too fluffy, but I really think that Cardano's got a great chance. So if you want to have a look at the summit, this app that they have for your phone is well worth downloading. It'll give you the best way of probably looking at all the talks that are going on. They can have video archives of all the talks, and there's lots of little things you can participate in, like claiming NFTs as an attendee at the Cardano Summit, and that may have a resale price down the road. But really, the best thing about getting involved in something like the summit is just being able to see and hear and learn about some of these improvements we can make for the human experience, like around monetary policy, and about the people in the space we're building. So last night even there was talks on the impact that Cardano is making, and that's something that is really close to my heart, and part of my sort of mission and reason for being here is that I want to see wealth spread to the edges. So we've got far better chance of regular people in day jobs, and even those in developing nations who struggle to get work even have enough economic agency and say in the global state of finance to be able to pull themselves out of poverty as anybody in the world. So location suddenly won't determine your future to the extent that it does today. And I think the blockchain really has the ability to give people that layer. If we can create a permissionless system, finance system that anybody can join in on, once they're in and operating and perhaps earning from that ecosystem, then they have as much chance in the global space of making money from it as anybody and anybody anywhere. I've already been seeing that. We've got a whole load of so I'm heavily involved in Catalyst Swarm, which was like a grassroots community movement that built out of Project Catalyst. We helped organize a lot of the events in and around Project Catalyst. So we hosted talks and meetings meetups as well for people to actually talk about their projects, talk about their ideas, find collaborators. And a lot of these projects are now speaking at the summits in and around the world, certainly at local events, but this Cardano Summit in Dubai is the big one, and most of the major talks will be coming from out here. But a lot of the projects now speaking at these events are people I've got to know over the last 3 years from Latin America, South America, Asia, India, Sri Lanka, well represented, Africa. There's a lot of people from Ghana, Nigeria, who I'm in regular contact with. And there are town halls that are sort of spawned out of the global town hall, which was set up to help Project Catalyst run its communication. We've now got town halls or after town halls, we call them, because the community events are run after the town hall, the official town hall from IOG. And so these after town halls are now running in Europe. So we've got the global one still, we've got Europe, we've got Asia, there's an African town hall, there's a North America, and South America as well. And related to all of those are local meetup events and regular time zone relevant slots for getting involved in community calls. And that's where you really start to hear about the projects that are building in around Cardano from the bottom up. And so, yeah, do check out the summit. It's worth getting hold of the app if you just want to be kept abreast of the information. So I'll be at the London event tomorrow. Doors open at 12:15. I think it has officially sold out, but I think if you turned up, you'd still get in, to be honest. And there'll be a panel of stake pool operators that I'll be speaking on, and several other good talks from projects building in and around the space. So do check out the summit. Also, one of the teams on here that I wanted to touch on is a project called Mehen. And if you're a holder of ADA, you're already sort of said, okay, this is the ecosystem that I think is worth investing in. I've done it for Ethereum and for Polkadot and for Bitcoin, and these are all good blockchains, good ecosystems to be looking at for innovation. Cardano's one is particularly vibrant and particularly well resourced in terms of, Catalyst being the largest innovation fund in the world, gives out $60 million worth of ADA every quarter. And the project's here as a result of that. So one of the teams in here that I've been seeing the founders of in various different projects around the space over the past 3 years, I've sort of got together now and formed Mehen, which is working on a community-owned, real grassroots-driven stablecoin. So this will be a fiat-backed stablecoin. So they're US-based. They've got a custodial bank that will manage the treasury, and so for every dollar of stablecoin minted on chain, there'll be a dollar in the bank in the US. They're also going for full regulatory compliance, and so that is, I'm not very good at doing two things at once, you might have noticed. They'll have full regulatory compliance, and they've already sought and secured compliance in 15 states, I think it is, in and around the US. And because the US market is the most stringent regulatory market, they're very anti-crypto. The SEC has declared everything a security and are the strictest licensing laws in the world, in an attempt to suppress it, basically. And so they're working at that level to make sure that they are fully regulatory compliant, and will have every grounds for being a legitimate stablecoin. There was a list of the states down here. It seems to have been reorganized. But yeah, you can come and check out the website, do a bit of reading, do your own research on anything I ever talk about. None of this is advice. This is only my opinions. But Mehen is a company that's going to be community owned and looking to have a stable coin that is important for the crypto industry to really get adoption into the fiat world as well. So if we've got large financial entities starting to look at investing in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, we need to have stable coins that are able to act as the sort of the place of safekeeping that represents the reserve currency in the world, the most stable currency in the world, and use that as a sort of a refuge for returning their funds after they've carried out investment activities. And so the stablecoin here is looking good. The founders are guys I know and respect, have spoken to. So Matt Ploman's been in tech conversations with Gimbal Labs, which is the team I've been involved in. The first team I got involved in, so 3 years ago, and it's very good. Steve Fisher is a stake pool operator who I've seen present as well. James, I've heard talk several times in Twitter spaces and around social spaces. And Sean is another stake pool operator who I've spoken with regularly over various different things. And I really know and trust him. And so any project he's involved in, I'm happy to certainly give a good evaluation of. And so the team are good. I like the team. Matt is coming from the fiat industry. He really knows his stuff in terms of finance. You can check him out on LinkedIn. So they're a fully doxed team, and then their documents are online, so you can go and do proper research on the entities behind it. You can see he is a senior credit analyst for some big heavy hitters in the fiat world, and so the fact that he's doing this as a project, a passion project, gives us good confidence that he's here for the long term and looking to build. And the sort of exciting opportunity I want to talk about today is that they're actually doing a raise, a seed funding round, where only community members who are aware of them and participating in their Discord server, receiving their newsletter, can actually get in on this sale. They're doing a crowdfund for a raise of $1 million to help them meet some of the financial needs of getting regulator compliance. They've already been operating for a couple of years, and their tech is built, and they're finishing that off. This is much more about funding, getting compliance, and getting the insurance levels that they need for all the funds that they'll be processing, and so as a result, as a return for investing in this seed fund, you'll actually get shares in the company, and the ability to do that for a crypto-based company is new to the States, and so they're taking advantage of this new regulation, and that will let them actually fractionalize ownership of their company. And so now is a good time to have a look at it and see if it's something you want to be involved in. And so I have there's probably a sign-up letter in the footer of their website. So you can go to here, sign up for the newsletter, and that'll get you on the list. But their actual link to their crowdfunding has already been released in this last week's newsletter, and I've got that link direct for my viewers. Here's me while I just dig it out. So I think it's this one. So this is last week's newsletter, and within it we've got a link to read newsletter. They've got some good writers in here involved as well. It's not dry and dull. It's worth looking at. And see, they've raised nearly $10,000 so far, with a goal of 500,000. So you can get in. Actually, I think their goal is $1 million, and they're reserved So they've had $10,000 actually paid into it already, and you can reserve any amount you want, and they've got 500,000 reserved already. So by reserving, you're effectively pledging to invest, and you can withdraw your pledge at any point. So you don't have to hand over any cash at the moment if you want to just get some in before the million is hit. Actually, it looks like they've increased it, so they've gone up to 2 million now. So they're obviously seeing a lot more interest than they were expecting. And so at this stage, you don't have to put any money up, but you can just register interest, pledge a certain amount that you're comfortable to invest, and you can revise that, withdraw that in totally while you're doing your due diligence. But on here, there is a decent presentation that would be given to funders. And so you can read your way through that and have a look, see if it's something you'd be interested in. And this is sort of getting in at the not straight crypto investment into a token. This is actually into ownership of the company itself. So there's a marked difference in this investment opportunity than there is the ones that I normally talk about, which tend to be just token related. So do have a look, and I think that's something that's worthwhile considering in the space. The link is WeFund./Mehen, and I'll drop that into the chat. I gathered any links from I cover in the calls into the Discord server. I'll drop the link to, let me find my chat box, drop the link to join me on Discord as well into the chat, so you can find me there. And in the Discord server, there's an archive of all the previous conversations, previous calls, and topics covered. So if you are looking to maybe look at some smaller cap tokens to invest in around the Cardano space in particular, now that you're an ADA holder, then there's several projects that I have spoken about in the past. I think that's the link. Let me just test it, actually. That's an invite to the Discord server. It's still functional, so you can use that. And this is I'll drop that already, link to the sign up form for the crowdfunding raise for Mehen. Good. So do feel free to interrupt me, Aaron, if you have any questions or anything you want to cover in particular. I have a website that's worth mentioning as well. So if you do want to look at, anybody listening does want to consider staking with Fluid Pool, you can come to pool.fluid7.com, which is just to do with the stake pool operation that I run. I run a development firm as well, software development firm. So we traditionally just do web applications, software as a service for clients. The stake pool operation is sitting as a side project at the moment, and I'm sort of solely involved in it in terms of operating the tech. But in terms of my Cardano audience, this is the bit that interests me most. So do come on here. I talk through a bit about why I run the pool, what it's for, and then also as a video tutorial on how to get signed up. And in that 20-minute tutorial, I cover some important sort of security advice for crypto, people getting involved in the crypto industry at all, about setting up secure wallets. And one thing I cover in particular is the difference between having your cryptocurrencies on an exchange like Binance, Kraken, Coinbase, versus having them in your own self-sovereign custodial wallet, which is what decentralized finance is really looking to bring as an innovation. And the significant difference between that is that if you're holding your tokens in an exchange, that's effectively the same as holding them in a bank, but chances are that bank is unregulated, uninsured to the same extent as your local national banks are. And so if there is an issue with one of the exchanges, like we saw with FTX last year, that caused the huge price crash in crypto, and Sam Bankman-Fried this week has just been given 7 counts against him in the case, because he was a corrupt individual running the largest and fastest growing cryptocurrency exchange in the United States, and he was mixing customer funds with his personal investment activity. So I have no sympathy for the guy. But that's an interesting bit of news I've been keeping an eye on, because if we're going to really see cryptocurrencies accepted into the mainstream, then we need to squeeze out the misguided, the unscrupulous, the greedy, and the corrupt individuals from it. And so I consider Sam Bankman-Fried to fall into that realm. And 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy have now been judged against him. And he was, as an indicator of where he's at. He speaks well, and he speaks about good purpose, and certainly that's why a lot of people trusted him. But if you look at his actions rather than his words, that's really how you can tell an individual's heart. And when he was arrested and granted bail, he was out and living at home, but then bail was then rescinded and put back into jail because he was approaching witnesses in his trial to coerce them into favorable testimonies. So that's an indicator of who he's at. Pressuring witnesses is really unscrupulous. So that is the dark side of cryptocurrency at the moment, because it's a massive growth industry, and that always attracts the greedy. But we've also got the innovation, the hope for the future, and the salvation for our finance industry, as represented by Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto, and the origins of cryptocurrency. And that's what we're hoping to. And we need to, bear in mind that there are 2 different entities there, and centralized exchanges are more vulnerable to corruption and greed than if the money is sitting in your own wallet, in your own hands, and you're responsible for it. And so a self-sovereign wallet is what I talk through setting up here. And so if you're holding your ADA on an exchange, I'd encourage you to set up your own wallet, understand the risks that are involved in that and the opportunities, and then to stake with a stake pool, because that's the way we guarantee the growth of the network, the stability of the network, and we incentivize us to stay uncoercible by nations or corrupt individuals operating in the space. If the money is sitting in your wallet, you hold the keys to your wallet, rather than an exchange manager or a bank manager or whoever else you might give over custody. We ask the banks to hold our funds, our pay packets, and so on, and they're regulated by the governments that govern our nations, and even they're not gold standards anymore, because every £100 you put into a bank, £90 of it goes off into other investment activity. And so they've only got 10% of the reserves at any one point in time. That's fractional reserve currencies. As opposed to with ADA sitting in your wallet, you've got 100% of the ADA sitting in your wallet, and you're the only person who can move the funds out of that. And so when you decide to do an investment activity with the ADA that you hold, you are moving funds into an opportunity with full knowledge, and you've only got yourself to blame, which is a much more comfortable position for me to be in. Now I've been doing it for a couple of years. It's nerve-wracking at first. It's something there's hurdles to get over. But if everybody in the world starts to do that and take responsibility for their own money, their own investments, then we will see a evaluation of the industry as a whole, coming to a far greater degree of responsibility. So That's an important part of investing, and what I encourage anybody who listens to me to do. So that video talks through all about that, and within that, of course, you get the opportunities to carry out the steps to stake with Fluid Pool, and I do cover a little bit about the additional benefits of staking with Fluid Pool over and above other pools out there as well. And all pools offer incentives, and I list the ones that I've got for us. So some of the projects you can have the opportunity by staking with Fluid Pool, you get the opportunity to earn other tokens just by being part of Fluid Pool. One of the tokens that has got a bit of activity going on at the moment is for a game that is being produced and developed with gameplay as you would have in any other game out there. This is a role playing based game, and that is a huge industry. The gaming industry is bigger than all our sports put together now, which just blows my mind. Esports have regular prize pots of $1 million plus given to people who are the best at playing computer games. So that blows my mind as a starter. But actually, as an industry, it is now a massive player. If you think of Sony, Epic Games, Microsoft, all these have heavily moved into the gaming industry because of the potential there. And as a result, anytime you're looking at markets to invest in, then you should consider gaming as one. And then if you're looking to combine the future of gaming, probably look at blockchain and how gaming is starting to intersect. And so within the gaming industry, you've got people who are able to. Now I'll tell you this little story as well. One of my employees, I knew what I was paying him as a salary. He was a junior at the time. He got engaged and bought an engagement ring with a huge rock on it, and I was like, "There's no way that one of my employees can earn that and pay that from the salary." And turns out he had earned it from his gaming activity. So he was a very good gamer and played competitively with teams, and part of his activity, he learned that there were crates of weapons that he'd get in games that he could then sell on secondary markets outside of the game itself, because other players would be interested in getting access to some of the weapons that he had access to as a good gamer. And game and weapons suddenly start to have provenance if they're of a certain age and being used by certain gamers and fighters. Then they have a kudos to them that adds value to that skin on a knife or something like that. And so those assets, those digital assets, start to accrue value over time, a bit like any of our artwork that we hang in galleries would start to accrue value over time. And who's bought it, who's owned it in the past, add to the value as it moves on. And so these digital assets were really just within a private sphere. But he'd found markets that were buying and selling them outside of the game. So then suddenly you've got the option to have price markets and price movements on a much larger scale than just the players within the game. And that really then starts to look at, well, what are those markets? Who's managing the funds on those? And again, that's if you're really looking at how to move every layer of value storage from being centralized, like a private individual being responsible for holding those funds, managing other people's funds, into a decentralized one where multiple people, multiple operators, individuals can actually manage their funds themselves, then that area within the gaming industry is ripe for innovation. And so there are several games being built up in and around blockchain projects as well. And so within the Cardano space, there is oh, mine's gone blank. Oh dear, I have to look them up 1 second. Machiavellic. Yes, I always get the spelling wrong as well. So let's try. So I am a partner pool of Machiavellic, which is a blockchain-based game being built out. That's a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG. And they are exclusively on Cardano at the moment. The team were all Cardano enthusiasts. The founding team were all Cardano enthusiasts. They started building the game. They're now partnering with, and that's the news about this game that's coming out, with another established gaming development agency. And so they are growing their team to include more developers, more game developers. And, the artwork for the game is already phenomenal. Looks great. And actually, I think they're going to be announcing at the summit that they have an actual playable demo of a microcosm of their game available now. So back 2 years ago, I partnered with them to run an initial stake pool offering. An ISPO within the Cardano space is a new innovation in getting involved in investment activities, where you can take the ADA that you hold, stake it with a pool, like you might do with Fluid Pool, and actually earn additional tokens. And so if you staked with Fluid Pool, then you're able to earn Machiavellic tokens. And that ISPO, that initial stake pool offering, is actually concluded already. But I've accrued a chunk more tokens that I will be distributing further to delegators to Fluid Pool. So there are still opportunities to earn Machiavellic token. So there's our listing here, Fluid Pool. And their playable demo. In fact, there's Envy as well, who I mentioned as one of the founders of Mehen stablecoin. So coming out of them at the moment is some new news. Where's their Twitter link? One. That I just spotted this week. That news item is not listed here. Maybe I actually got the notification through Discord server. Let me just check quickly on there. See if I can find the link. Yeah. If you're on the Discord server, my Discord server, Fluid, then you'll be seeing these bits of news show up in the news feed, blockchain news, and that's how you can get to hear about some of the latest projects that I rate and think are worthwhile considering looking at investment opportunities with. And so Machiavellic are proud to announce partnership with FGL Games. So these are an existing game development company outside of Cardano. I think that they're sort of being brought in to work within the Machiavellic team to help boost their development speed, which is great. They also had an additional partnership with a team not too long ago. So I think they're founding. They really just had sort of 2 developers and an artwork guy, but that team is growing. They've had a good fundraise and are now looking to consume more resource in terms of getting their game to a release stage sooner. And of course, if you have received any tokens now, cheers, Aaron, then to date, those tokens are worth holding on to because the game hasn't launched yet. When the game launches, suddenly then you'll have opportunities to maybe use a token or sell it and make additional funds over and above your holdings. So do have a look at Machiavellic about what they're getting to, and I'm trying to see if they've only actually released the details on that partnership in their Discord server, and the post is on my my Discord news channel, so I'll paste that into the notes on Discord. Anybody who wants to catch up on these links afterwards can find it from there. Let me just get that open now so you can see the direct link. Switch up off to the Discord server again. So if you are on my Discord server, then this is what you'll be seeing. And I've got far too many servers, but this is the one. This is the logo for it. This matches my pool logo. And then the news stuff will be in this blockchain news section, which is under community. So if you join the server, then you'll just see these community discussion groups. And this is where the Machiavellic news is. So if you are a token holder, Machiavellic token holder, having received it through the sale or so on and so forth, or the ISPO that we ran, then there's a good bit of bullish news for you on where these guys are going. They did have an NFT sale on, but I don't think that's running anymore. So yeah, they had an NFT which would give you a character in the game, an exclusive character in the game, that would have a lifespan, and then whenever that character died, it would then end up as a statue in the game forever. So you could have your character immortalized in the game, which is quite a cool thing. And so that NFT represented the potential to do that in the future game. And so again, we'll have a resale value in of itself. And so within this sort of space, you've got a whole load of opportunities for finding other investment opportunities. And if you are interested in NFTs are non-fungible tokens, and they represent digital assets that can be bought and sold as the same as a cryptocurrency can, like ADA. And so this JPEG store is the largest Cardano NFT store. And if you wanted to see, if you did get hold of any of the Machiavellic tokens, then these commissioner officer passes are tokens that we hold. And I've got several of these, and I'll be doing some giveaways leading up to the launch of the game of some of these tokens. So stake with Fluid Pool, get hold of MAC token itself, which is the fungible token, a bit like ADA or pounds or dollars. And then these non-fungible ones, which are more like artwork or digital passes, vouchers into games, into exclusive opportunities, things like that. So yeah, they are available for resale, and you can see the floor price for the token NFT. It's 50 ADA, and then the prices obviously go up from there. So the highest price listed one is 30,000 ADA, which is crazy. I don't think anyone will ever pay that. But some of these ones, these nice ones, which are rare in comparison to the early ones, the cheaper ones, are asking for 272 ADA. So very early into this project still. If you do some evaluation on it, think it's got some future, like the partnerships they're making, then you could consider putting a bit of your ADA into something like this. It's a benefit from the growth in the gaming industry globally, and the niche within that, which is the blockchain gaming industry. And again, like you see, we're quite likely to see a 10x growth in Cardano from this point, just to get back to our all-time high, and then above and beyond that. The same can be said for any small token project within Cardano, is that will do that 10x because the underlying currency is ADA, as well as its own growth of maybe 10x. So you could end up with 100x growth in some of these things. And so if you have got a tiny bit of ADA invest in some of these, that's where you can see some of the crazy growth figures that are available elsewhere. And all this sort of attractiveness in terms of growth of these projects will draw more people in, will draw more people into holding ADA, and that gives the crypto and currencies industry as a whole a better chance of growing. And for the high ethical standards that I talked about at the start of the call, in terms of economic agency for every individual around the world, self-sovereignty of their own funds, global economic policy as opposed to a nation state one. These high-polluting aspirations for blockchain and cryptocurrencies can be you know, at the moment are yielding huge benefits for those early adopters, like you and I, in terms of their potential return on the growth that we'll see in that, in the industry as a whole. So yeah, if you're if you are an ADA holder, then stake with a stake pool for starters. Get your tokens into a self-sovereign wallet, and then also I'd encourage you to look at some of these other projects in and around the space to really grow your assets far faster than any other way of growing your investment portfolio. And you know, again, sensible practice is to take money out on the way up, and convert it into more stable assets. You know, the traditional property industry, bricks and mortar, into stocks and shares, into government bonds, whatever you want to choose to invest in. All these things are, you know, more stable than cryptocurrencies will be for a long time. So you know, if you're a wise investor, then you know, don't throw everything at crypto. Do keep the bulk of it elsewhere, and that's just sensible. But you know, don't miss out on the potential for growing your portfolio faster, from these high risk, high reward opportunities out there, and all this sort of education we do in and around these calls. And Lucas that was before me, Lucas Crypto Hour. I recommend having a listen on that, who has a really good economic specialist who understands the global fiat market far better than I do. And so the macro picture is worth listening to, as well as, you know, the small crypto niche that I found myself in. So another project that I do rate very highly is Optim Finance, and they've had a huge bit of activity this week. I did cover it in last week's call, and then try to prompt people throughout the week in terms of actions on the Discord server. But they have had their token generation event has happened this week. So Optim Finance are a bond platform. So like government bonds, people effectively buying government debt, and a government is, you know, is never going to default on its debts. In theory, that's what the narrative is, because they can print their own money so they can pay down their debts. You know, of course, that's not true on a global scale, but government bonds are seen as one of the safest stores of money now as an investment activity. Within the Cardano space, then this is a bond platform, so you can lend money to entities within the space, and you can also borrow from this platform as well. But that's a way of effectively tying your ADA up into a higher growth interest rate than you would get just by staking with Fluid Pool even. So Fluid Pool will yield you about 3.5% APR. Some of the bonds on here are available for, you know, 6, even 7% APR. So it is a, you know, in terms of crypto space, it's a much lower sensible rate of interest, but it's still significant and better than you'll get in your bank account, for example. You are earning ADA on your ADA, but in terms of using a bond, then you're giving away the liquidity, so you can't just spend it all because it's locked up for a set period within these bonds. And the way that the mechanism works is that it's tied up in smart contracts. And again, this is where real innovation comes that we didn't have pre our price peak, and now we do. Is that these smart contracts will allow you to interact with a platform like this, where you're putting your ADA into a contract, which is software written into the blockchain, can't be changed by anybody. The policies within it will be played out in full without any intervention. So the lender and the borrower can't interfere with each other. So the lender in this case is putting their money into the. Let's start from the bonders, from the borrower's point of view. The borrower will ask for, say, 5,000 ADA. The lender will say, "I'll give you 2.5," and then another lender will say, "I'll give you 2.5 as well." So those two lenders then fulfill the smart contract's first requirement of, this is a 5,000 borrow. These guys are willing to lend 5,000, so their ADA now matches those two figures, and that then creates a sealed financial contract, and written out in code, not in law. So the code itself, the algorithm within that code, which is on the immutable blockchain, which means that nobody can tamper it once it's been written on there. So the code is written onto the blockchain, can never be changed by anybody. So it will play out as long as the blockchain exists. And so those two halves of the contract have been, participants now can't interfere with it. The borrower then has to pay interest at regular rates throughout the duration of the bond, and the lenders will receive their capital back at the end of it, plus the interest that's been paid out. If the borrower doesn't pay the interest for the full duration of the bond, then they'll have put up 6 weeks worth to begin with, and so the most or the least that the lender will get out of it is a capital back plus 6 weeks of interest. So they really can't lose. The lender will always get their capital back, because it's written into the contract, and the only way the money can flow back out of that agreement is back to the two individuals who did the lending. The borrower will get the rights to stake that ADA, participate in protocols with that ADA, but not the right to spend that ADA. So it's the capital tied up in it, that 5,000 ADA, can't be spent anywhere by the borrower. They can only use it to stake with another entity, or do whatever they want with it. So, for example, Fluid Pool borrowed 1 million ADA, and that's now staked with Fluid Pool, which means that we are in the zone for minting blocks regularly. So every 5 days we mint a block. Some epochs won't mint any, some epochs will mint 2 or 3. So it all plays out evenly over the year, but there's an aspect of randomness to it all. But I can't spend that 1 million ADA. That 1 million ADA will be going back to the lenders at the end of the period of the bond, and I've paid all my interest on that bond up to date now. So I've put that ADA, the interest, into the bond. I can't get it back out again. Everybody will receive their payouts. Everybody will receive their capital back. And so it's a really secure financial way of creating collusion between lenders and borrowers without a third party involved. And so the rules of that smart contract will play out even if the founding entity who built the technology, if they disappear, those contracts will still be played out to completion. And so that's the beauty of blockchain. You're not trusting the individuals any longer. Once you trust their code, because it's been audited by third parties, you've seen it operating for 2 years without flaw, then you can start to trust that code and then participate in the bonds yourself. And so that's what's done here. And so really the bonds in here do have an equivalent ADA value. There's very much 1-to-1. And so as part of their token raise, so as their token generation event, they released Optim token and Optim-IZ. The Optim token was able to be bought into with ADA in their first phase. And also, if you were a participant in one of these bonds, you could actually buy in with your bonds tokens if you were a lender. So the lenders put their ADA in and get back a bonds token, and actually use those bonds. They could actually use those bond tokens instead of waiting to get their return on their ADA from the bond. They can actually spend that. So it's another additional functionality for those lenders. They can actually spend it on buying Optim tokens instead. And so they're swapping their bond, which is worth ADA, for their Optim, which is also worth ADA, but will have a different market valuation than ADA does. So that was an opportunity that I considered worthwhile getting in, because I've seen their platform, I've seen it work. In terms of, by doing some due diligence on them, you can look at DeFi Llama, which is a third-party metrics aggregation platform. So within here, you can see that this is just Cardano. I've filtered it just for Cardano blockchain projects. You can see the total value locked, or the amount of money, the amount of ADA locked into the exchanges or the platforms, the borrowing platforms, and the centralized stablecoin, decentralized stablecoins, etc. on here. And you can see that largest Indico, which is a synthetic asset platform. Then we've got MinSwap, Liquid, and fourth now is Optim Finance. And so they've got $14.5 million worth of ADA tied up in their bonds, and that all happened before they did their token generation event. And so that's another really strong indicator for me, is most projects will launch a token, then use that to fund their development teams to build, and then they'll hopefully have a product that makes revenues to reward and keeps growing, so that the token value goes up and the people who invested in the first place don't lose out. These guys have done it the opposite around. They built first, proved the technology, got a whole load of ADA into their platform, into their smart contracts, and then they've raised to take their project on further. So that's a really strong signal for me that they're a team looking to the future. And there's far less chance of losing out on buying that token now. And in fact, they did a really innovative launch. They created a disincentives for people to run bots to try and pump the price right at the beginning and sell it. People who were buying were at a disadvantage from trying to sell it on the exchanges straight away, because they set out their fees at 20% for the first 2 hours, and then dropped it down to 10% for the next 24 hours. And then it's dropped down to 5% fees. And those fees will all be going back into the liquidity pool that they're using to sort of fund their DAO, their organization that will be building out the tech. And so the liquidity then will out and build up other products, rather than just these bonds. They can start to look at assets that might need swaps and things like that. So really interesting project, and one that I took advantage of their bonds themselves, and now I've invested in their token as well. And since launch, their purchase price was half an ADA per Optium token, and you can see on Tap Tools, which again is another sort of price aggregation platform, you can see that their token is currently trading. So you could sell the tokens that you bought already if you wanted to at 0.525 over the sale price of 0.5. So instead of the normal activity, which is a massive price peak, spike, and then drop off, consider it drop off as people try and sell as quickly as possible, it's peaked and then just slowly climbed from there, if anything, which has been great to see. And the price, there's a price curve there. You can see, launch, it was right up. So it came from nothing, went up to here, and it dropped from its peak of 0.635. It's dropped a little bit from that to see it from its very peak to its current price. So it's dropped 20%, 21% off its peak, but that's absolutely minor compared to most token launches. So, and it's already sort of looking like it's stabilized and got a fairly flat profile now, which is just the sort of activity you want to see at a token launch, as opposed to something else. Nobody else has launched like this. Again, it's an indication of the technical savvy within this organization. Let's have a look at another token I really like, NMaker, for example. It launched before it did a token raise right back in 2020. Of course, its price action has been very much related to the price action of Cardano as a whole. So this is a little unfair, but you can see their token. Actually, that's not even the launch. Actually, their token did pretty well considering as well. So their launch, and this is to their peak. Actually, no, they did really well from off. So again, bad example. There we go. The camera I was looking for. Yes. So typical of what you'd see at a token launch. They had a 99% drop. So the price halved basically on even this good tokens launch compared to Optim's, which just dropped 20%. So a lot of fluff at the beginning of any token launch because everyone wants to get in, and then a load of people sell off trying to make a quick buck. But they've managed to mitigate that, which is a really good thing for the token long-term holders, which I will be. So again, now once you have their Optim token, you could take that off and pair it with ADA and put it into a platform like Spectrum Finance to earn liquidity pool. So as well as just participating in holding tokens in the decentralized finance space, you can actually start to act like a participate in banking activity with your own funds. So whereas the banks will take 90% of your money that you give them and invest it elsewhere into bonds and other applications, then this is a relatively new on Cardano decentralized exchange. They started the building their tech out on Ergo, and they've now got multi-chain exchange. So Ergo is a proof of work blockchain that uses the Ouroboros protocol consensus mechanism, which was born out of Cardano. I think I've got that right, actually. Back to myself. But yeah, very compatible projects. And so they've got their application, their decentralized application running on Ergo as well as on Cardano. And Optim use this exchange to list their token pairs. So it's now at the top, second from the platform's native token itself, SPF, Spectrum's token, now sitting second in the list. And you can see that their volume in the last 24 hours was 120,000 ADA, and their APR is sitting at 60%. So that's a significant, and it's not, it's not going to be that high for forever, but it's for a token launch, they can sit at thousands of percent for a while, and then drop down to zero and down and below. This one's come in at 50-60% earning at the moment. So even for the short period of the launch, maybe a couple of weeks afterwards, we'll be getting really good rates of return if you do participate here. And so as a liquidity provider, what you're doing is taking your Optim token that you just bought, say, and your ADA that you hold, you're pairing them to the same equivalent value, putting them into this exchange, and then anybody who comes to buy and sell Optim or ADA will be using that liquidity that you've provided to actually fund that swap. And as a reward for doing that, you get interest back on your the amount that you put in. And then whenever you want to, you can withdraw your liquidity as well, and so get your capital back out again. But that's a way of, another way of starting to get involved in decentralized finance and earning above and beyond the holdings in your wallet. And this is how global finance works. You find ways of growth, of participating in the capital growth of the planet, really. So yeah, interesting few projects I've talked through today, and I think it's well worth you considering any of those, looking at them, evaluating them, and please do go and have a look at the Cardano Summit. There was one particular video that I think is worth you checking out that I started to watch this morning, and that's called Battle of the Builders from the first night, and it's got the youngest, most innovative projects building on Cardano, and they'll also be good for you to evaluate, see if you want to keep an eye on them, where they're going, and whether it's worth maybe looking at their token or investing in their project at all. Here we go. There we go, Battle of the Builders. Perhaps haven't linked the videos from this as of yet. Certainly you can get to it from the mobile app if you did get that as well. yeah, well worth looking at. Yeah. Anyway, if you are in London and want to come along to the event tomorrow, I'm sure there'll be space to it. Apparently it's sold out, but I think you'll still get in, to be honest. And you've best to come later in the day, not right at the start. You can hear me on a panel of stake pool operators getting quizzed over why I'm in the space and participating. But yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. This is Cardano Q&A. Operate every Friday live. Come and join me at 9:30 UTC now, rather than 8:30 UTC. And I talk on what's going on in and around the ecosystem and answer any questions you have. It's more of a workshop when possible, directly helping people with setting up wallets, buying their first ADA even from exchanges, moving them over into those self-sovereign wallets, anything like that I'm happy to cover. And crypto security as well, whether to invest in hardware wallets, which ones to invest in. We talk that through too, and also look at soft wallets and what the differences are between them, cold storage, hot storage, etc. So yeah, come along, join me. Thanks for listening. I'll end the call there. See you then.